Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's time again for Word Balloon Live, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. It's been forever and a day, Gerry Duggan, but I'm glad you're back. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me, John. It's good to see you again.
Absolutely, man. Well, you got a lot of shit going on, and I'm thrilled. It's been a while, but God, did we even talk about? And forgive me, because I think I remember the original title more than the one that it became. Your crime collaboration with John McCrae, Dead Rabbit.
Oh yeah, sure. We published Dead Eyes at Image Comics, and we're back at it now too.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
We have a second volume that John is drawing, and we also will have a short out at Christmas time.
Oh, great!
Through Image. So yeah, we're really excited.
I talked to John, I think last year, about it and the fact that maybe you guys were in process and everything. So that's great to hear.
Unfortunately, John was one of those guys that got his shots, but still ended up with long COVID. So it slowed us down a little bit.
I didn't know that. Wow, that sucks.
Yeah, it was a bummer.
Yeah, man.
Jesus. Still is a bummer.
Still is a bummer. I know. Now I'm like, all right, second booster, when, whatever. Better get it before the government runs out of cash.
Get as much science in your arm as you can.
Amen, son.
It's not all John either. Obviously, I've been busy with X-Men and Darkroom and everything else that I'm doing.
Indeed. Do you want to let's talk about the Darkroom? It's
right there. Please.
Zoom in. Boom, and a really cool new supernatural fun story.
It's funny. It's a little blown out because of the backlight behind me, but there's the cover by Scott Buon-Cristiano and Tamara Bonvillain, and our letterer is Joe Sabino, and joining us, first-time comics creator Elliot Gray is doing all of my design work moving forward, and they're all wonderful. Elliot is coming from video games. He was a Bungie UI designer, but this was a fun thing that came about from my buddy Neil, who introduced me to Scott's work. They were childhood friends. And, usually when someone says, hey, I want you to check out my friend's art, I always sort of tense up. I always am encouraging. But usually there's, at least one thing that artist has to go do to go get sort of into, fighting shape. It was described to me as, drawing 1,000 pages out of you to get to like the good stuff. And the same is obviously true of writing. I wouldn't want to publish any of my earlier works that, where I was honing my craft. But Scott was really a finished and complete and wonderful artist. He's on Instagram. He's at Scott Buon, I think, Buon, and he does a lot of gig posters for Mastodon and doing beer labels and commercial art and a lot of really cool stuff. Was breaking into entertainment when we met, and then we slow cooked this. So this was something that was something we were moonlighting, and then we're dropping as a hardcover OGN. So we're coming up on final order cutoff on May 11th. So if you think you want it, please let your retailer know that you'd like it. And if you're a retailer, know that Scott and I are signing a bunch of tip-in plates. We're basically trying to swipe Ed and Sean's playbook. I think it's for every 10. I think if you order 10 copies, you can get 10 signed book plates for it's something like $2 or $3, whatever it is. It was just at cost. So I hope retailers take advantage of that. And, it started out, it's obviously, got some horror elements to it, but it's, it also, I think because it needed it. We baked in a little bit of humor too, but it's a world that I think is super cool. It's not like anything else. It's got a really cool eclectic cast that I don't want to spoil, but
No,
Scott's worth the price of admission. That's obvious.
clearly.
It's about a camera that is missing, that seems to be cursed, and cursed to take just awful and beautiful haunted images. And then we are asking the question, well, is the camera haunted, or is the lens actually sort of creating what we're seeing in the end? And it was fun for me. I know you know this. For those that don't know, I also I try to be a photographer. So it combined a lot of my loves. Obviously, comics being the first, and photography being the thing that I'm still trying to get good at. But yeah, really, hopefully pretty enjoyable. We killed ourselves to make it and love it to death. So we can't wait to share it with the world.
You know, I used to in radio work with a great photographer friend who was also a sound guy like me, and we were fortunate because downtown in Chicago there was still a great old fashioned camera shop that's
Oh,
been
cool.
there since the 30s and is still going strong. And he could go there and buy film and everything, and great antique cameras along with modern stuff. Is, you know, and I would imagine obviously in LA it's not hard to get film, or maybe it is. I don't know.
Well, we have said goodbye to our camera shops, which is unfortunate. They're obviously, it's a specialty item anymore, but
Yeah.
there was, it's been closed, I think, almost the whole time I've been here. Morgan Camera Shop near the Cinerama Dome on Sunset. It is actually my first experiences with photography. Were in dark rooms and in analog photography, both in junior high, in high school, and then in college. And then it became, a hobby like comic books that I had to set aside, during the lean years. I just didn't have enough money to shoot film and especially process it. I would love to have a dark room again.
Oh yeah.
I haven't been in one since the early '90s. But look, for all of the wonderful techniques that analog photography affords you, it's obviously we're in a situation now where there's no cost to photography anymore after you have
Right.
the camera. Like back in the day, learning to even shoot, and obviously manual focus, there was always a cost associated, not just with shooting the picture, but then printing it and doing everything else that you needed to do. So I won't ever want to say that, or I won't say that we should roll any of that back, but there is, I think, a lost art to getting into a dark room and sort of trying to burn an image into through some emulsion and paper is really some magic. It's I could never draw. I always wanted to make comics, and I was very lucky to be able to collaborate as a writer. But it is for me, the how I scratch that itch to make an image is with the camera. And I've been lucky in a lot of ways, but both in collaborators and assignments where, with either the comic book business or the Hollywood stuff that I was doing, getting to go behind the scenes and sort of shoot stuff that you might not ordinarily get to see. So over the pandemic, one of the things that I was doing was going through my photos. I was living, I used it to time travel to before the pandemic. And so I'm still preparing a Kickstarter book of material largely from comics in Hollywood that, I may not be your favorite comics creator. I hope I'm up near the top of the list, but I almost assuredly have photographed your favorite comics creator and some of your Hollywood, some of your favorites from Hollywood. So that'll be something that I'm throwing together for later in the year too. Maybe I'll come back and threaten you with that.
I hope so. That's great, man. That's great to hear. Truly. Would you have ever, and maybe still is a future thought, would you ever want to marry your photography with comic strips and do a fumetti? And you know what a fumetti is. As opposed to drawn art, it's photographs with dialogue balloons and all.
I've thought about it. I may have even tinkered with it. The thing is, I'm so busy. I feel like once I exhaust the list of people that want to make comics with me, that's where I'll go. When the yeses stop, when Pepe gets sick of me, that's where I'll go. It's super cool. It's also something that, like, we talk about when you break into comics, there's no invitation, you just have to go make it. And so for anyone out there that would like to do that, that is something now. I mean, Soderbergh shot a full-length feature on an iPhone. There's all of the tools necessary to go make a name for yourself are out there, and probably in your pants. So go give it a ride.
That's outstanding, man. So so Dark Room final order cutoff is May 11th.
May 11th for the hardcover. It's a 1999 hardcover. It's 106 pages of story and art that we sort of were keeping a secret, and then we have a bunch of back matter, and then unfortunately not everyone made it through these last few years. Unfortunately, the friend Scott, our mutual friend, the guy that introduced me to Scott, didn't live to see the book get published, and so we're sitting here going, God damn it, Neil! Like it just didn't happen, and broke our hearts. But he's a guy that, even if you didn't know him, he probably made you laugh. He was a wonderful editor. He was editing everything from Key and Peele to Comedy Central stuff, and a wonderful guy. I wish you all could have known him, but he touched our lives, and then he is directly responsible for this comic book having a chance at getting out into the world. And so we're doing that. We gave our lead, our heroine's name, his last name, and it's from the bottom of my heart. It's just something that we wanted to escape the world we lived in into this better world, even though it's a world of curses and blessings. But we hope you dig it. And actually, we had something just come up on FOC. I don't know if you heard about this, the secret history of the war on weed.
Oh yeah.
So
Koblish was on to talk about it. So I'm going to put up some images from that fine book as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, Scott's so talented. He he didn't get enough of the credit for the Deadpool run. Both he and Hawthorne and Lowly and Tony Moore, so much of what people call the Duggan or Duggan and Posehn Deadpool run, it was those guys standing up, and all of our guest collaborators. So Brian and Scott and I live in Los Angeles, and we may or may not have sat around his pool with some herbal refreshment and cook this up to drop it on 420 at for Image Comics. It's actually, I think it has, like our Deadpool work, I think we tried to give you a little bit of whiplash where we are trying to entertain, and then if we can throw a punch into your breadbasket, we will. And a lot of that was from Scott here. So it made us laugh to make it. I've already started to see some people that have seen it that have laughed. We hope that you're entertained. That one's one shot for $5 out on 420. But you can still pre-order it. If you're a retailer, I don't know. I'm sure you can do some advance reorders, but the orders for those are in.
That's great, man. No, I think it's wonderful, and it definitely has the Peacekeeper vibe as far as your hero and stuff and everything. And
I hope I get to do a Snowflame comic before James gets there first.
That's hilarious. That'd be fantastic, man. You know, it's funny. We talk about your ties to the television world and the film world, and also the award show world.
Yeah.
And well, we got the Grammys tonight, and you know, last week we had the Oscars, and man, I got to tell you, Jerry, I am of two minds. I'm both angry that we're still talking about it, and also the thing. And forgive me because I'm the one bringing it up, but also angry that I'm thinking so much about it, and really like I don't know, it's
It,
just
it was really unfortunate. If you're watching this years from now, we're talking about the assault that Will Smith laid on Chris Rock. You know, I'm in a text thread of comedians and writers, and literally the first thing we all agreed to was that, you know, the country is so divided. As soon as you're, for any reason, normalizing violence, especially of entertainers, it's not a great place to be. You know, I have friends who have been assaulted or narrowly avoided being assaulted by, usually they're drunk, you know, in clubs. Comedy clubs are already not a necessarily the most wonderful place to hang out. And
unbelievable.
so that's where our minds went. And it's unfortunate for a lot of reasons, but yeah, it'll hang around, certainly, at least through the next, you know, Oscar. I guess maybe Will Smith withdrawing from the Academy will sort of turn down the heat on it. He won't be presenting the best actor next year. And I think that's good. You know, I missed, I longed for a country that had consequences before that. So this just feels like another example of how we are sliding away from the rule of law. And I say this knowing full well, I write violent soap operas. That's my job.
Yes, you do. Yeah. Well, but again, that's in
I understand it's
context.
entertainment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's entertainment, man. And the only thing I think, and again, maybe this is controversial, that I think might dissuade future on camera outbursts is take the Oscar away. I understand, and that's fine on his. And this is me saying this is John
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
but take the Oscar away. I appreciate that Will has withdrawn from the Academy, and
Yeah.
I think that's a good move on his part. But I also think that's not enough. And if they have no winner this year, as far as the books go, and it becomes a Roger Maris asterisk kind of year of, hey, this terrible thing happened. Maybe this will dissuade people from acting like this on camera.
I,
Nobody would have had a problem with them going up to Chris Rock off camera and saying, hey, man, not cool. My wife, she's embarrassed by it. Anything.
yeah.
But to do it on camera like that, really, it ruined the show for what was a great award show. Everyone who won, the presenters, the women were excellent as hosts. Schumer and
Yeah, they were.
Sykes and forgive me, Regina's her last name escapes me, but yeah, it just wasn't. Ooh, it really angered me, and it's like, man, because I also feel like the Oscars in a different way as it becomes more about prestige films. I'm a big old movie nut, and 31 days of Oscar, as Turner does every year. I really look
Yeah.
forward to it, and I wish there was more mainstream product. Although there are some, and King Richard was one of them that is kind of
Yeah.
a mainstream product. But yeah, I mean, it's just like I feel like the awards are getting away from the general public, and this was a bad privilege moment.
Yes, yeah, there's no doubt. It was a
Yeah,
shame. I mean, also I saw, John, a lot of people that thought, oh well, this was a bit, this was staged, so that, and that nothing could be further from the truth.
sure.
But I understand the impulse to question it, and I guess on the one hand, I sort of say, well, at least they're being skeptical. On the other hand, we're just, you know, it's another example of living in a post-truth world where
Yeah,
you can see something happen and then still not believe it. And you know, I had friends, you know, like on the show, you know, that
yeah.
like there's not that much like live TV experience that you can get anymore. So a million years ago, I used to write a live TV show called Attack of the Show, where I was one of the writers on that show. And the it took everyone by surprise. It was super uncomfortable, and I don't know. There's the cynical version of me that sort of says, well, maybe their agents will cook up some Shane Black thing where they end up in a movie together. I never put it past anyone to sort of figure out what's the way to make the most amount of money off of this. It wouldn't surprise me.
No, I understand. And again, Will Smith has always had an earned reputation as one of the good guys. And this kind of hurts, obviously.
Yeah, I would think.
Yeah. And Rock and Chris Rock, what poise to be able to continue and everything. Yeah. And also just, I know, Joe, we've beaten it to death, not only this Oscar subject, but really the comedy club thing just depresses the shit out of me. I don't know if you know, I talked to Dave Thomas from SCTV a few months ago, and I'm like, hey, what about comedy? He's like, I'm staying away from comedy.
Yeah.
He's had a very comfortable recent career of the last 10 years or so, if not more, doing dramatic television rather than writing scripted comedy and everything. But yeah, it's like, that's sad, man, when these titans, hell, even Cleese got in trouble again just a couple of weeks ago at South by Southwest, I saw, where he was.
I'm so far unplugged, John, from all of it. Like I was already experiencing our culture in a slow motion. Like I'm catching up on Atlanta. I'm in almost to the end of season 1 of Atlanta. That's
great.
Yeah. And
but I understand.
As for the internet, like the early days of Twitter were real fun. But I use it like a megaphone now, or I'll favorite something if someone's in my mentions if I'm scrolling, but I don't have it. It's not as important as it used to be.
No, I try to keep it light usually too, despite what we're talking about right now. But again, when I have a guy like you that comes from TV, film, and comedy and everything, no, I feel like sometimes I want to talk about. But I am so thrilled.
Yeah, of course.
Jer, Jesus, man, you've had this great 16-year or so run now, consistently in comics. That it's just wonderful, and I'm so glad that Marvel gets what you get to do, plus your create your own stuff, as we talk about Dark Room and the War on Weed. But
I'm very, very lucky, John, and collaborators, and and assignments. I was making creator-owned comics. I was gonna stay making creator-owned comics, but when Marvel gave us a shot, Brian and I and Tony, to go take a swing at Deadpool. It was one of those things that I didn't know it at the time, but that was really going to change my life for the better forever. And we just tried to have fun and be good collaborators, and we told our story to the artists, and those artists told those stories to the fans, and we came back in and did some joke work or tried to punch you in the gut. And anybody in that chair, John, at that time was going to have a real good ride. Ryan was just about to leak the test footage for the movie, and it was like being strapped to a rocket. And it opened up so many doors. I hope I've been as good to Deadpool as Deadpool has been good to me.
You've been up to the task, though, Jared. Truly. Honestly, it's been great. As evidenced by Andrew's question, Savage Avengers was great. He asks, I hope it comes back someday. Well, I think David Pepos is...
Yeah, there's another volume now. I couldn't say that at the time. Marvel needs to make their own announcements. I would have loved to have sort of said, hang on, there's more. But I got to write. I mean, look, anything of any length anymore feels like a miracle. We did 28 issues of Savage Avengers. That tells a complete story that I'm really proud of. I'm as proud of Savage Avengers as I am of anything that I've ever had the opportunity to collaborate on. Hopefully, and at the end, I was like, if Roy Thomas or John Buscema or any of the other greats were to pick this up, I would hope to make them proud. So the question is, Andrew's favorite character. When did you first discover Conan? So I actually first discovered Conan in the Marvel comics. I was reading his adventures and obviously then watching the movie. But that was absolutely my first exposure to him. And that's why Savage was such an important thing for me to take a swing at. When Marvel got the rights to be able to tell new Conan stories, I knew I wanted to do a Savage sword, which I got a chance to do with Ron Garney. It's still one of my favorite comics. And um, Tom Brevoort, the Avengers editor, said, "Hey, one of the things that we now have the ability to do is mix Conan into the Marvel universe." And it, I didn't realize it at the time, but not everyone thought that that was like the best thing in the world.
Sure.
I was just
Sure.
completely like, of course, this is going to be the best thing in the world, and we're going to. And look, I think we killed it. Diodato opened it, and then it became Patch Zurcher's book. What a run of comic books. He must have been icing his hand at the end of the day to get to do the amount of pages that he did. But, it was snidely referred to as Conan team up for a little while. And I laughed at that of going, yeah, enjoy the show. But we did have a real Conan story to tell, I think. And, if you haven't checked it out, it's another. I think my strongest collaborations are horror stories. Even my Uncanny Avengers with in my first tour of duty with Pepe Larraz. We inherited a merged Ultron, but nobody knew what that meant. It was Hank Pym and Ultron, and we knew just what to do with it. And so Savage Avengers, like Uncanny Avengers, like The Dark Room, is a horror story that has some other muscles to it.
Outstanding, man. No, it was a great run, and I mean, I can point to your Hulk run as well, which I enjoyed so much years ago.
Also, a horror story.
Yep.
Who is the Doc Green, that manifestation of Hulk, knew that he was going to lose his intelligence. He was basically Professor Hulk, but with a meaner edge and losing. He knew he'd be back in those ripped purple pants someday. And
yeah, a little DOA kind of almost element to it in terms of borrowed time, and you gotta get it done before it overcomes you. All right,
yeah, and
but
all of these comics, John, are important to me because of I don't draw them. It's always a collaboration. That was my one rodeo with Bagley, someone who I've loved forever.
absolutely.
And that one, I remember that when John, like Mark had a couple of questions about it, and then when I sort of said, "Well, this is what I think I'd like to do. What do you think?" and he was hooked, and it showed. Like I still think that's John. I'm sorry, Mark has drawn a lot of comic books. Like Mark showed up for that in a way that I'm biased, but those are some of my favorite Bagley issues. He crushed it. And
Um,
then talk about authorship too. Like Zurcher, did so much of it. He did all of my Hulk was drawn by Bagley. So
that's excellent, man. No, again, they're pairing you with the right people, and the evidence is there in the pages, man. Definitely. So, Kwiko Okoye, I apologize, Kwiko, if I am saying your name incorrectly. Would you describe the changes for the X-Men team as an expansion or reshuffle? Also, he wants to know if you could write any superheroes, whether DC or Marvel, that you haven't already touched. Who would you pick if you're willing to disclose
yeah,
that?
those are good questions. When Jonathan, when talked to Jonathan and Jordan and CB about what the X-Men would be post Jonathan, we discussed how I think it's we borrowed the election from Legion, right? And we're telling stories about the superheroes, the heroes of Krakoa, and what does that mean? And I think you're going to start to see that. We talked about a 3-act structure with 3 Hellfire Galas as act breaks, and you will see the team shuffle. But I think that's good for a lot of ways. If your favorite leaves the team, it doesn't mean that character's story is over in our era. We're further ahead in terms of breaking story maybe than any line of comic books has ever been. And we're, I think, very, very good about starting a story in one place and being able to move it someplace else. So the team will change a little bit. We have a fan vote that will reveal in this year's Hellfire Gala one shot. The last summer we needed the Hellfire Gala as a line-wide event to hide Planet-Size X-Men. Nobody asked us any Planet-Size X-Men questions, which was really what we wanted. And obviously we want us the chance to go absolutely crazy in a high fashion sense. And, it was immensely successful, as it should have been. Like, anytime you are giving someone all the best characters and all the best artists, like, it's up to, if you don't like it, it's obviously put my neck in the noose. But so the Hellfire Gala, like, we knew it hit from seeing the art and seeing the returns of like how it bounced back to us both in fan art and in cosplay. And to the second question there, I love Marvel and DC. I suppose I'm so lucky to be writing X-Men right now that I almost don't want to think about anything else. But I love Iron Man. I've always loved Iron Man. I was an Iron Man fan before the movies, and I also would love, sometime if I were to ever get my a bus ticket back to Gotham. That's always fun too.
Here, absolutely. Dylan
But
King.
it's already I'm like a guy piling my plate at a buffet. I have the X-Men. Like, have more than enough going on.
That's great, man. No, fantastic. And again, and also we want room for your creator-owned stuff too. Absolutely. Dylan King, do all the team members leaving the X-Men have new books to call home?
They everyone has a story. Everyone that is in the X-Men in this era has a story and has an ongoing story.
Very cool, man. Let me tell you.
Anytime we talk about future stuff, we are always annoyingly guarded about not giving up any story details, because for a long time stuff was just being ruined. We were very pleased that Kieran and Lucas's Immortal One was basically arrived unspoiled. In years past it felt like the shipbirds were going to come out for it.
It's tougher and tougher, man. And some of those news websites, they're not only scanning solicits from Marvel, but they're getting smart and looking at Amazon for trade, future trade solicits and stuff like that. So you're right. It is really hard to keep a spoiler secret these days, even harder.
That's one of the things too that we talk about. It's not always fixable. I understand why we are aggressively progressive in story and in content, but we have this 20th century business model that we have to serve. And so, that's another conversation that we've all had in the X office about what it used to be like to go to the Five and Dime or the gas station or wherever you were getting your comic books and go to the spinner rack. And literally the only thing you might have known from the previous issue was a little thumb, like a postage stamp sized ad for the cover.
Yep.
So, and there's a lot of value in that. I've never explained one of my stories and had it go, well, that's better than the story, like, that's why pitching is such an art. There are writers that like know how to pitch, and you always want to hear those stories.
Well, there you go, Dylan. I think he's answering your question right there.
Yeah, honestly,
pro or anti-solicits in comics. So, yeah.
But here's the thing about that. So the way that I can do judo on that and maybe answer it, and then even the question there is, how do we preserve the element of surprise for readers? And it is difficult when we are in a place where comic readers are the secondary market for mainstream comic books. When you hear creators talking about please pre-order, that's a way for you to become the first market for comic books. All of the comic books that are ordered in a comic book shop, none of them are returnable in the way that newsstands obviously were. You could rip the cover off of a bunch of comic books that didn't sell and get a credit for them to tide you over. And now obviously we know we're probably never getting back to a place where you can incentivize. So anyway, that's why if you love a comic, pay for the comic. Don't pirate the comic. And even better, if you want to become a patron for the comic, and this should be now language that even the kids understand, you're voting with your dollars. You're securing your copy of what you love, and you are adding life. You're adding issues to that story. So, again, comic shop owners have it difficult guessing what to order.
I hear you, man. Talking with Gerry Duggan. We're going to take a quick break for a sponsor break. We'll come right back with more with Gerry right here on Word Balloon.
Yeah.
All right, we're back.
Hi.
I wanted to know, Gerry, and reaching back for another great mini-series that you did during Hickman's Secret Wars. You did that great 18, whatever it was called. Basically, it was Western Avengers and stuff.
It was 1872.
There you go. Absolutely, man. So yeah, has there been a genre yet that you haven't hit that you want to? It seems like you've hit them all, and always there's humor in your books as well. So yeah. I mean, is there a genre you haven't? Have you done war stuff yet?
Have I done war stuff? I haven't done a lot of war stuff, but I'm actually doing a romance that is on drawing tables. It's a creator-owned book that will be. I'll have more to say about it later this year.
Okay,
but it's
and the Secret War on Weed obviously has some military aspects to it and guerrilla kind
of. Yeah,
that's
true. That's true. I guess you'd have to go back to what was then my second comic. I loosely adapted the Odyssey with Phil Noto. So it was sort
Infinite
of
Horizon, right?
Post-war, yeah. We the Infinite Horizon. That's right. 1872, by the way, was a great example of the Marvel editorial retreat working overtime. Hickman, likes to joke about being a monster and canceling everyone's books, and I think he was joking, but really what it was an opportunity, and everyone saw it like that. Yes, you were writing the end of Nova and Hulk if you were me. And actually, by the way, that was the real gift of Hulk, knowing that he was worried about time running out. It was literally running out. I sort of knew what the readers didn't at that time, was that the publishing line was going to stop. And so Hulk, I knew I was losing Hulk, and Nova became the Infinity Gauntlet with Dustin. and that was the introduction of the Bacon family in a post-apocalyptic world. And 1872, I said, hey, I'd love to reimagine the Marvel Universe as a Western called Timely and put it on Battle World. And, it was one of those times that, like, it was a real hand grenade. I threw it out there and everyone made me look like a genius. Like there was 30 issues of content by the time I left that day. James Robinson said, hey, Hawkeye should be raised by First Nations folks after his parents die. He gets scarlet fever, loses the hearing. These are all like brilliant things that like I didn't have room for in the 4 issues I did have. So I had it was just fun. Like those were fun days. We spent so much time with the what ifs, and many of them ended up seeing print. And that's why I still think Secret Wars will be the gold standard for an event and for what came out of an event, and then obviously went back into the Marvel Universe. That was everyone firing on all cylinders and being very selfless, like everybody. I tried to leave as many ideas as I could for other folks, but I was the recipient of a lot of gold.
That's excellent, man. No, and you're right. It was a great event. Everybody came to play, and there were a lot of interesting ideas that were explored during Secret Wars. Absolutely, or Secret War. I forget if there was an S or not at the end of it.
Yeah, I think it was plural.
Okay, that's good. All right, there you go. I know you're involved with this, and this also question. Free Comic Book Day coming up next month.
Yep,
and,
we have May 7th, and I'll be in Vegas at Torpedo. So if you if you must have my signature, get in touch with them.
There you go.
That's a great issue. That's I think it's 3 stories. One of them's pretty short, but the bulk of the book is Kieran and I writing some preamble to the big summer event this year.
Well, and then Mark wants to know how involved is your X-Men book going to be in the Judgment Day event?
Oh yeah, we both my book and the characters that I'm currently writing are going to be all over the place. Kieran and Valerio are having so much fun, and we're there's some really, really cool stuff. I have to be careful. I almost blew one of the surprises of the team. I don't know how we talked about how we're going to even solicit covers, and what I was asking Marvel was to say, isn't there a way that we can sort of redact a cover without knowing that it's redacted? Just all of a sudden those characters can appear. So I've been pretty honest. I not the team is not changing whole cloth, and I have already said I put a franchise tag on Sync. He's not going anywhere, so I'm having a lot of fun. There's a lot of story. There's a lot of story that every question that an X-Men fan has. What about this? What about this? All of these plates are spinning, and they're all going to come back around.
For people who haven't heard the general spoiler-free description of Judgment Day, what else can you tell us about the event? It involves the Eternals, the X-Men, and the Avengers.
It involves the Eternals, the X-Men, and the Avengers, and it involves a late-breaking of story out of Eternals, X-Men for sure, and Avengers. We are telling a story in the X-Men. Ben Urich has been picking at mutant resurrection. It doesn't just seem to be for the quote X-Men anymore, and that will have a large part to play in it. Pepe and Marte, I think, are the best team in comics, and the end of year 1 of X-Men just looks fantastic. They're done. They're through that first year already, so we're on to new business. I can't wait for you guys to see it.
How long is the event, Judgment Day? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Or
No, it's going to be a little bit more condensed than that. I believe it's with some double shipping, 2 months over the summer.
okay,
Because the X office has some stuff that we got to get back to.
Kwaku, another question. Speaking
Yeah.
of romance, how have you found writing Wolverine and Sync so far? Did you check out their old relationship to see what the two might find attractive in each other?
Well, I think those issues in the vault are brilliant. Like that John hit a lot of 500-foot home runs with his collaborators, but what he and Asrar did with those characters in the vault, I think, are immortal X-Men comics. No pun intended. And yes, I read them and loved them at the time. And when Jonathan came to me a long time ago now and was talking about how he may pivot out to some other business, and would I be up for taking over the X-Men? I said absolutely. It'd be a little bit easier if he would have put the car off the road first, but he was not obliging in that. But there are a lot of things that we cooked together. I mean, I heard this story for the first time in 2018.
Wow.
And so we started. It was, I was coming back from space at that point. I was leaving Guardians, and all of a sudden, when I heard Jonathan talk about House and Powers in that retreat, a light clicked on. I thought I was going to hear a great Jonathan Hickman X-Men story, and I did. But what I didn't understand going into the room that day was that it was going to be this operating system that would tell a lot of other stories. And so, I don't know if you've had a chance to read Sabretooth yet. That's been incredible. That Victor's been crushing it. There is so much made new again, and a lot of the big story that we have coming up in X-Men have been things that I've kicked around with Jonathan and Jordan and CB and our artists for a long time, and now we're starting to really be able to pay some things off. The end of X-Men 11 is going to be one of those things that I'm hoping to get into hands unspoiled. We'll see.
Here, man. Warren Drummond, a Hollywood collaborator,
Hi, buddy.
says congratulations, Golden Apple Comics alum, doing his thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. I came out to Los Angeles 99, having seen The Big Lebowski, and determined it would be more fun and cheaper to be poor and have a higher quality of life in Los Angeles than it was in New York, and I was very much right about that. Bill Lebo, I went up and down Melrose Avenue because my first apartment was right off of there at Waring in June, and I was putting in applications probably at like head shops, that were like secret fronts. The guys going, look at this narc, what's happening here? And I had no idea Golden Apple was there. And I walked down, I almost turned around and went back the other way. And I luckily went one more block, saw Golden Apple, walked in, and there was no help wanted sign. But I asked at the counter, I said, can I fill out an application just in case you guys are going to be hiring? And they said, why don't you go talk to the owner? And Bill Leibowitz talked to me for a few minutes, didn't hate me, I guess, and then offered me a job for 2 weeks, and it changed my life. I met first Brian and Patton there, and Dave Mandel and other collaborators and people that would become friends. They would introduce me to my wife. It's that sort of thing that just, you have to keep walking sometimes to blunder into the right opportunity. And again, lucky to be good and working hard. Gave me every opportunity.
I think of that, and I've seen it when it was, I don't know if it's back on YouTube or not, the pilot that you, Brian, and Patton made. about the comic store owners, and Sarah Silverman in it as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. I think it's gone, but
Bummer.
it had it's funny. It's like it was for Comedy Central, and those guys were working on scripts, and they needed it to look like a real comic shop. So I did my best.
It sure
But it
looked like
wasn't
it
meant
to
to
me.
be one of those things. Yeah, I'm sure there's things that they would do over again now. But yeah, in another universe, it was probably retooled
There
and
you go.
had a nice run.
Well, I mean, again, like you said before, I believe me, man, I got my share of radio and TV that I'm like, yeah, please don't. I hope nobody sees it, and thank God it's not out there. But
Yeah,
no, man, it was great, and it's fun for like if it was a first effort for them and you. I mean, and again, you've got a great little Hitchcockian kind of cameo without dialogue, but you're on camera as well, man.
that's right. That's right.
So no,
Um,
I love it. I
yeah.
love it.
Hey, that was a really interesting time, in that Mr. Show had just wrapped the off the HBO series, but they were cooking the movie at that time, and I think the movie didn't turn out the way that they wanted to either. But there were like that's the great thing, and why we say as creators, when we try to give advice, is to finish what you started, because it's the only way that you level up. You can start a million things, but you actually never get the benefit of like the universe's dungeon master giving you a bump in any stat until you finish it, and then can sort of see what went right and what went wrong. But those were really interesting days, because that production company, Bob and David, were doing all of their creative things out of there, and so like Bob would have like a Charlie Kaufman script that he thought was brilliant, that we should all read because we needed to know about it. And actually, that was, funnily enough, to bring it to a full circle. That's where I met Neil. We had Emerson College in common, but I didn't know him there until Los Angeles. So Neil came out from Boston, got a job at Dakota where we were making these things, and worked his way up to being a very trusted right-hand man for everyone there, and would later then introduce me to his buddy Scott, and then this is something that we're bringing into the world now. So again, you never know where your collaborators are going to come from, and you always just try to be as boring as possible on the in real life, and as exciting as possible on the page, and you'll be able to make cool things for as long as you want, I hope.
I hear you, man. And to that effect, I want to tell you about something that I've floated and let the audience know is coming. That the first couple episodes of an audio documentary I'm making about the monkeys, and it's
Oh, very cool.
yeah, we got something to say. That's the title of it, and
That's a nice
collecting.
logo too.
Oh yeah, Mitch Halleck from Terrificon in Connecticut.
Very
Uh,
cool.
that's his artistic work and everything. So there you go. We got to get. Well, you were there years ago, right? At Terrificon in
Terrificon.
Connecticut,
I
Mohegan
think I
Sun.
was announced, and I'm not sure. That might have been one of the ones that I had to drop out of. I try not to drop out of anything once I'm
Sure.
confirmed, but I'm not sure I made that one.
Okay. Well, we got to get you there. And speaking of live action and your work in television, and I wonder, but first of all, with the streamers out there, are you pitching? Are you doing that as much as you're doing the comics, or
Yes, there's always a secret amount of work that a writer's doing. I'm being paid to adapt something of mine for a studio, and I'm also being paid to write a AAA video game that I think will make people very excited, I hope. But
that's great.
being able to be present and to basically co-adapt something that I collaborated on is great. It gives me the ability to. I'm not leaving the car, right? Like if I'm if I agree to let a producer go out and do it without me, it's going to be a job for someone. Whereas this is, sure, it's a job, but it's also you're buying me whole cloth. So I'm excited about that. I wish I could talk to you more about it, but we will someday.
Yeah, I was gonna say when it's time, it's cool. And then the other area of drama that I'm so happy is only accelerating. And again, my documentary for the Monkeys is going to be an audio drama. How about or an audio documentary? What about audio drama? I'm so glad Marvel's getting involved, and I've talked to Ben Percy about his adaptations that he's done for audio. Would that be something that would interest you?
I would love to. I hope Ellie Pyle calls me and we can talk about it. Would love that. I saw her and Three Worlds, Three Moons, Steve Wacker this weekend. It was.
Oh, nice. Did you go to WonderCon?
Actually, I didn't make it, which is hilarious. I love WonderCon. They invited me, but I had some personal stuff this weekend, so my son's playing lacrosse. We had a game, and then there was a family event that I ended up seeing. But yeah, another time for WonderCon. Maybe I'll get a wild hair and jump on a train for San Diego too. I don't. After Free Comic Book Day, I think I'm just working on my deadlines the rest of the year.
Understood.
Yeah.
Well, again, everyone, the final cutoff for orders for Darkroom, a great new graphic novel that's coming from Gerry. That is May 11th. So hit your store. There you go. Exactly. Very Carol Merrill of you, Gerry. That was great.
I wonder, I can't do it. I was going to say I could do the, it does work. There we go.
Do it. There we go. Yeah, man. That's great images. Honestly, look at that art. Outstanding. I don't want, and there, boom. The money shot. One of the money shots.
Yeah, it's great. I think we're probably going to put a preview up this week. It'll probably have the first 10 or so pages. We can afford to be generous when we have over 100 pages of content. It's the first time I've done this. The prevailing theory is sell a comic twice, sell it as singles, bundle it up as a trade. If you want to do a hardcover. I've been reading all the Ed and Sean stuff the second it rolls off a printer, and I fell in love with that hardcover. So it's a bit of an experiment. If it lands, we'll do more. If not, we'll look at singles. I think it's good to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, and I do that a little bit with the cat boxes here. I'm trying some new things, so or new things for me, I should say. So.
All right. Also coming up 420, The Secret History of the War on Weed.
Yeah.
From Jer, Brian Posehn, and Scott Koblish. The Deadpool team reunites for this fantastic book coming on 420. Also from Dark Horse, I believe, or is that from Image? Whoop. Hold on, I took him out instead of the Image.
So this one's from Image too. Yeah.
Excuse me. Okay, very good.
Yeah, look, I love all those publishers, but I'm ride or die at Image because they've said yes to everything that I've hoped to collaborate on, and so that's the kind of loyalty where I'll always bring Eric something first in order to pass on it, and then I'd take it around. So yeah, really excited to be back at Image with these two books, and then have some more announcements. Talk about the romance book.
What was that Image miniseries you did that was 10 minutes in the future with tech and everything?
Yeah, that's a book David O'Sullivan and I did called Analog, where we imagined
social media kind of gone,
Well, yeah, and what happens when it's all overthrown, and that one I think has aged really well.
Yeah.
We tried to jump over Trump and imagine what happens when social media isn't trusted, but that everyone is sort of doxxed. We're being doxxed in drips and drabs now. Like, I got paid for one thing from a company in Canada. want to say like 2 or 3 years ago, and it was not a lot of money. It was like $1,500. And then I just see that like one of the employees just sold all of the data to, like on Silk Road or whatever. So they're offering like 2 years of like with credit checks, and it's just nonsense. It'll all be out there someday. This was a world then that becomes what happens to secrets. How do you move secrets? Well, the answer is on paper, and a hard person with a gun moving them. So again, like I'm like you, I love neo noirs. So David O'Sullivan and I are working on something new right now that
Cool.
is not one of those things that we have discussed yet, but that I am also cooking another analog story for him, because that's a world that I really love. And
Wonderful.
that's still a movie that Chad Stahelski is hoping to make. He's actually just re-optioned that at Lionsgate. So cross your fingers. There may be some really exciting news there.
Here's hoping. That's outstanding. Way to go, Jer. Honestly, as always, I whether we're face to face or doing it on camera like we are right now, always great to see you. Always great to hear good things, and great to read great comics as well.
Thank you so much, buddy. I don't always get a chance to listen to podcasts while I'm working, but if I do, it's yours. So thank you again.
That truly means a lot. Gerry Duggan, everybody, thank you very much. Word Balloon Live will be back tomorrow. 2 shows, Jeff Lemire and Alex Segura.
Awesome.
So yeah, two good friends and everything. That'll be fun.
Tell Jeff I said hello. Who is the second voice? I ran you over.
That's all right. Alex Segura is going to talk about his new novel, Secret Identity.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah, it's going to be a nice week.
Yeah, tell both those guys I said hi.
I will. Hang up for 1 second as I wrap up here, because I just wanted to tell you some off the air. But,
sure.
But thanks a lot for coming. Everybody, thanks a lot for watching.